So Piet Kramer, 1881, 1961, a little bit older, if we can say so, than Yanis Xenakis. This was the man. It was hard to find pictures by him. There are some, but very low resolution. He was a very important member of the School of Amsterdam. But from what I read, when the School of Amsterdam, as an architectonic movement, fell out of fashion, the archive of his drawings, a large number of his projects and drawings was destroyed, which is something hard to accept, but it happened. But we are going to see his buildings. I usually show at the beginning drawings, but in his case, as I said, apparently there are no drawings by Piet Kramer left alive. It's too bad. Let's read a little bit about him. Peter Ludwig Kramer, maybe, you know, Ludovic or Ludwig, I don't know, in Dutch, was a Dutch architect. You see, he died on the 4th of February, 1961. One of the most important architects of the Amsterdam School, Expressionist architecture. And I think Expressionist architecture deserves to be better known and appreciated, because it was a significant presence in modern architecture. From 1903 to 1911, so from being 20 to 30, so 10 years, he worked in the architectural practice of Edward Kuipers, a famous name in architecture in the Netherlands, where he came into contact with the architects Johan van der Meij and Michel de Clercq. Michel de Clercq, I don't know if I pronounce well the name Michel, should I say Michael? Michel de Clercq was the leading figure in the Amsterdam School, a remarkable architect. Unfortunately, he died at 40. But they worked together, and Michel de Clercq worked also by himself, leaving a great treasure of important buildings, and we are going to see some of them. In 1911, I guess Piet Kramer didn't study architecture. I only see that he worked in architecture offices, but there is no mention about him studying architecture in a school. In 1911, van der Meij received a commission to design the shipping house, a cooperative building for six Dutch shipping companies. Van der Meij sought the assistance of his former colleague architects, Piet Kramer and Michel de Clercq, to realize this building, and we are going to see it. This is the ship house. That's how it is called, the shipping house. I cannot, it's my limit, one of my limits, one of my many limits. I cannot read in Dutch. I'm crippled. It's considered the starting point of the Amsterdam School movement. Later, Piet Kramer collaborated with Michel de Clercq on the well-known the housing project in Amsterdam South, 1919-1923. Outside Amsterdam, he built one of his masterpieces, the store in The Hague, 1924-1926. After the death of Michel de Clercq in 1923, Piet Kramer was the leading architect of the Amsterdam School until the end of this movement at the beginning of the 1930s. So let's see first this shipping house, 1913, 1916. He was still a young man, and I don't know how he got this commission, but he did. I saw this building. It's remarkable, you wonder how did people build in this way at that time? It's almost like a cathedral. I mean, if you see the hallway, the entrance hallway in this building it's cathedral-like. And the facade is so rich. Look at the brickwork, the woven brickwork and the details. And look at what's there at the top. I mean, somebody did the drawings, other people built it. This is architecture at its best. Is craft and art together. There is exaltation here. That exaltation that Walter Gropius advocated in order to transform the craftsman into an artist. Here, the craftsman became an artist. Why? Because they were exalted. Why were they exalted? I don't know. It was a commercial building, you know, for a shipping company. But yeah, they were animated by a spirit, which unfortunately we don't quite have these days, it seems. Why did they, you know, enhance the top of the building in this way? Seems incomprehensible to our prosaic mentalities. But the world was not always like ours. And look, I mean, look here. It's you know, a so-called detail, but very creative. Look at the brickwork. This is the School of Amsterdam. And they burned or they destroyed the archive of Piet Kramer. How could this be? Because the Dutch themselves, you know, are sometimes blinded, you know, by I don't know what. Because the School of Amsterdam lost the battle with the steel, you know, they lost the battle with a certain kind of modernity, much more abstracted or abstract. Here there are still echoes from a certain past, but I think the brilliance of craft is no one can deny, and not just the craft. I mean, look here, you have literally you have an embroidered architecture. You know, it's hard not to like something like this and not to appreciate something like this. And this is just one building. We are going to see other buildings. Piet Kramer, not bad. He built in his later years, he built a lot of bridges above the canals of Amsterdam. So if you go to Amsterdam, many of the bridges, I mean, there are so many in Amsterdam, over the canals of Amsterdam are built by, I mean, conceived and built by Piet Kramer. We are going to see some of them. Now look here. Do we have a better architecture today? I don't know. I'm not sure. This was remarkable at that time. There is artistry, there is longing for, I don't know, the infinite. If this sounds too emphatic or too old-fashioned, let it be. But, I mean, look at detail. Well, I feel like coming back to this because I find it very impressive. Why did these people have a need to work on the glass and not leave it just glass? But some of this art is coming back. In fact, that hotel that was built by Zaha Hadid architects. Zaha Hadid, you know, before she died, or it was completed maybe after she died, seems to point a little bit in this direction, but using, of course, the, you know, the technologies of today in terms of projecting, parametric design, and so on. At that time, there was nothing like this. Sorry about this picture. I couldn't find any picture of him high resolution of this remarkable architect, because he was remarkable. I mean, look here. Just a fragment of this building. Of course, he could not have done this building without very, very, I mean, highly trained and sensitive and knowledgeable craftsmen. And look at this entrance here. It has character. It is artistically endowed with the power of expression. Are our entrances in our buildings now better with the banality, just a square or a rectangular hole in a white or grayish wall? I don't think so. Will this world come back somehow in architecture? It's possible, yes. When people will stop watching so much TV and will spend more time creating things where they can use their imagination and intelligence and the work of the hands as creatively as possible. So this is another, sorry, because the English Wikipedia is rather, stingy with Piet Kramer. I had to go to the Dutch Wikipedia to find more information, but unfortunately the language is not English, is Dutch. But we understand he worked with Michel de Klerk, 1919, 1922, and look at this block of flats, apartment building. Who do such an apartment building today? Nobody. But they did it, and this is social housing. These are inexpensive block of flats. This was almost like a kind of a socialist architecture in a capitalist country at that time. These were for poor people, for underprivileged people, social housing. But look at it. Maybe Guillaume Apollinaire, of whom from whom I read last night, was right when he was advocating the cause of it sounded better in Romanian. I'm trying to translate from Romanian into English. Arhitecturi inutile, useless architectures, because it was the claim of Guillaume Apollinaire that the great architectures of the world were in good measure useless. He said, a grave doesn't have a tomb, doesn't have to be a pyramid. I mean, that huge pyramid is most of it is useless. In as much as you say this is useless, what is its function? Why did there is a sculpture here? Why did Piet Kramer and Michel de Klerk make this building an apartment building in this way? Because of the need for expression. And you could say, well, expression is useless. It's not useless. We express our soul. And that's what actually Guillaume Apollinaire was pointing towards, that what appears to be useless, often it is not useless. It has a function. Even John Ruskin said that, the most beautiful things in the world, in nature, are actually useless. And he mentioned the flamboyant tail of the peacock and the lily. So if nature, was exuberant in its own need, or in her own need for expression, why shouldn't we? So maybe what will save architecture will be the uselessness of architecture. The so-called useless elements of architecture will save architecture. Otherwise, we'll die of boredom in the name of so-called functionalism, which reduces architecture to a depressing prose. I love this building by Michel de Klerk and Piet Kramer, really. And if you arrive in Amsterdam, please go and see it, and see other buildings by both architects, because they are there. I saw them. Look at this, a block of flats, social housing. They were very inspired and inspiring. And it's not just this building, there are others. This is one of them. Sorry about the resolution, but look at this. You feel like your heart is beating harder and quicker. Yes, this is the role of art. And this is not really about a patella bourgeoisie, like in the case of Kopf Himmelblau, or maybe even Votruba. No, it's an architecture, an expressive architecture. That's why the School of Amsterdam is considered, you know, part of the expressionist movement. It's artistry. That's what it is. It is artistry. At that time, the architect still considered himself or herself an artist. And there's nothing wrong with that. Otherwise, again and again, will die of boredom. I mean, even this service entrance, because it seems like a service entrance. Look at the windows. You know, they are not identical. There is an asymmetry here. This is a little, you know, like a portion of the endless column by Brancusi here. And then look at this window that is crafted to marry itself with the you know, the fragment from the endless column by Brancusi. This is creation. That's what it is. It is creation. And the roof is creation, not of that building. There are many. It's actually a complex of buildings, of apartment buildings. As you can see, they were all designed. Sorry about this disturbing Alami, but they take nice pictures, but then they destroy them with splashing the name all over it in the name of authorship. They ruin their own work. They are ridiculous. So all these buildings were designed by Piet Kramer and Michel de Klerk. Not bad. Not bad at all. I particularly like this view in this, you know, maybe the sunset light. Now, what is this? Yes, I remember. In 1916, 1918, manufacturer, I think, of ceramic tiles invited the young architects, some young architects in the Netherlands, to build some houses in a park that, you know, he acquired. So let's read about this. The park was created on the initiative of the Amsterdam tile dealer Arnold Heystek in the difficult years of the First World War. Heystek commissioned this person, Stahl, whom he knew from the Architectura et Amicizia Society, and approached 4 young architects to work with. Margaret Kropholer, his later wife, Cornelis, Guillaume Lacroix, and Piet Kramer. Heystek gave them complete freedom in building 17 country houses on a specially purchased plot in Bergen. 7 detached, 2 double, and 2 3-part villas. The only condition was that they would make ample use of Heystek's tiles in the interiors. All villas were built between 1917 and 1918. I think he built several buildings, but they were not preserved. I will show, though, I think 1 or 2 that were preserved, done by Piet Kramer. This is one of them. And you see, it's an architecture, you know, indeed, very, very opposite to what, you know, the Stiel, for example, promoted. You know, Rietveld, Mondrian was a painter, and Theo van Doesburg. But this was the other side of the architectural climate in the Netherlands. And it's remarkable that around the same time, you had such different, divergent visions about architecture, about the visual culture. Bravo to them. There was a richness of you know, movements in architecture and experiments and so on. Piet Kramer, architect. Then this one, which is itself very, very charming in a way, in a kind of a traditionalist way. We are going to see an even more whimsical and charming one very soon. Interesting experiment. Give freedom to the architects and to artists, and you'll be then rewarded. Give them freedom, both in school and out of school. That's what I would say. As it is written on the elevation of the secessionist building built by Maria Olbrich in Vienna. To each age, its art, and to art, its freedom. Unfortunately, there are so many people who are against this. Yeah, I thought I probably have another presentation with more pictures from this park, but maybe the one by Piet Kramer was just the previous one and this one. Anyway, now it's another apartment building, social housing by Piet Kramer. I mean, look what's going on here at the top. Eventful happenings. Architecturally eventful. Bravo to him. Piet Kramer, loving brick. And brick does deserve our affection. Affection which should never allow brick to be covered with, I don't know what, plaster or I don't know. No, in the name of protecting it. No, brick doesn't want to be protected, meaning hidden. Brick wants to be exposed with its beauty. Now, as I said, in his later years, he didn't build any longer so-called buildings. He built bridges, but some technical spaces or buildings near the bridges, and you'll see that some of them are very artistically endowed. This is the bridge number 400 by Piet Kramer for 1921 in Amsterdam, of course. This is a newer bridge. Another one, he built many, but look at this one. This one was from around that time. What is this building here? I find it very intriguing. I don't know exactly what it is. Maybe some kind of a technical space. But it's not banal. Or this one, is it the same one? Maybe it is seen from the other side, although it looks a little bit different. Very creative, no? But again, give freedom to the artist, to the architects, or to the artist in the architect. Give them freedom, trust them. Look at this one, it's like a mask, with the two eyes here, maybe, some inspiration coming from, I don't know, Teutonic times or Africa. And it's just a technical space, but it has character. It's mysterious, it's intriguing. They're staring at me right now through those two windows. Piet Kramer, bravo to him. And then look here, why did he complicate himself here? As if searching for beauty is a complication. It is, but it's a very useful uselessness. Let's fight for the usefulness of the uselessness. Let's fight for it. But this is also useless, no? I mean, he could have done it straight. Now, why did he complicate himself and also complicate the work of the craftsman? Bridges, and again that mask building. Maybe John Haydock could have liked it too, although the architectonic expression is very different from what John Haydock liked. He liked more the steel movement. Theo van Doesburg and Mondrian, not Michel de Klerk and Piet Kramer. What is this? Another housing, but a little bit later, 1923, another social housing complex. You know, apartment buildings for the not rich, and back to the earlier work, or maybe done around that time. Maybe he was still working with Michel de Klerk. All these works are done in Amsterdam. What is this? This is is a famous, actually, department store, a mall he built, but I don't know if he still exists. It escaped the bombing, I think, but I think it was demolished, if I'm not wrong, which is sad, of course. Built by Piet Kramer. Yeah, I think this picture was taken after the war, but I think the building does not exist any longer. I hope I'm wrong. Yes, this is welcome to today's world, in a way, in a less extravagant way, but anyway, we saw this picture, but this is a better resolution. And back to the housing for the lovers of whimsicality and architecture. Look at this window here. Why did he make this window in this way? What is the logic, Mr. Kramer? Could you please explain to us before we reject your project? Why do you bother to create this entrance with these useless things? Why did you create this window here, which is so useless itself? You know, why did you make it in this way? Why didn't you just use a typical window? Why is it not flat? Why, Mr. Kramer? Why? Why did you do this above? Really, you should stop with these eccentricities. And look at this window. Why, Mr. Kramer? Another bridge, Brook number 381. No pictures. What is this? I don't know what it is. Yeah, sorry, my presentation is not as logical as it should be. Another block of flats by Piet Kramer. What is this? A patisserie. You know what that is. He took all kinds of jobs. Since the School of Amsterdam fell out of fashion, it was difficult for him to find commissions. So he designed patisseries and bridges all over Amsterdam. He tried to survive as an architect in difficult times. I wish I had some of those suites. With me here, what is this? 1929, another bridge, 43, Amsterdam again. What is this? Another bridge, 1926, 1927. The more we advanced towards our time, the more the bridges became less interesting architectural. And of course, they became wider to accommodate cars and so on. What is this? This is another housing complex, different from what we saw previously, but still Piet Kramer. Lots of beautiful bicycles. The Dutch bicycles are great. It's the same complex, actually. Another bridge. More romantic in a way, more looking towards the Middle Ages in a certain way, and another villa. This one perhaps not so interesting, but it was built. And what is this? I think a monument. No, we'll arrive at a monument. It's still some kind of a housing, another bridge. Sorry about this meandering through his later works. Yes, the national monument for, I don't know what, 1934. It was not for something eventful in the Second World War. It was prior to that time, but humanity doesn't miss any occasion to have another war or some kind of a conflict. Here it is, a monument by Piet Kramer. I still like more his social housing complexes, and that shipping house that he built at the very beginning when he was very young. I guess he designed also this sphere, but it's a sculpture, of course. Another bridge, more modern. When was it built? 1942. So what do you expect? Closer to us, closer to our own modernity, 1947. Almost welcome to contemporary times. You see, it's a change. It's a change. Less craft, less so-called complications, more useful things. That's it.